left.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor?
Yes, and your testimony is being recorded today via audio and video, so you may need to pull the microphone closer to you so your testimony can be recorded.
Okay.
Mr. Jones, could you state your name for the record, please?
Brent Done.
Okay. And Mr. Doan, what is your position in relation to Madeline and Jacob?
I'm the ecclesiastical leader for the Jones family.
Okay. And so you're a bishop?
I'm a bishop in the LDS Church, correct.
And have you spoken with Jacob and Maddie?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Multiple times.
Have you, were you sought out to counsel Maddie and Jacob through the marriage counseling?
I counseled with both of them in the early part of their marriage, yes.
Okay. Was there discussions between you and Mr. Gouchenour and Ms. Jones about their marriage?
Yes.
Okay. And were there discussions about what happened during their marriage?
Yes, there were.
And were any of the discussions that were told to you alarming?
They were very concerning.
Okay.
And later, as more information came forward with Maddie, it became alarming.
Okay. And could you tell me what the discussions were?
Early on or towards the...
Well, you could start at the beginning and work your way through.
I think early on it was how do we make this work? I had talked with both Jacob and Maddie. Both seemed to want to make the marriage work. As I spoke with Jacob, he discussed a desire to do that. There was some concern over what had happened up in Montana. I had spoken with Maddie, and previous to talking to Jacob, Jacob came down. I had an opportunity to visit with Jacob, and during that conversation on our front porch, I asked him if he was willing to come down and try to reconcile what was going on. He indicated that he was, and as we talked, I would say that it was, okay, then you need to talk with Maddie. It was right after that, though, that, immediately after our conversation that day, he went over to their home, and it was not a conversation, but rather it was a pounding on the door and yelling. I received a phone call from the Joneses, concerned about what was going on, and I was asked what I had told Jacob to do.
And what did you tell him to do?
I told him just to have a conversation, to talk about how they could work things out.
Is it your understanding that that's not what occurred?
That is not what occurred. My understanding of what occurred, it was a demand saying that I had told Jacob that he should demand from Maddie that he should come back.
Hold on. What's your objection, Ms. Rossio?
Calls for speculation.
Overruled. I'll allow the witness to answer.
So that is what I was being told.
Okay. So you talked with Maddie, and just to make sure I have it right, you talked with Maddie, you talked with Jacob. This is at the beginning of your conversations.
That is correct.
Okay, and then what happens after that?
After that, I was quite concerned. I spoke with the ecclesiastical leader up in Montana about my concerns. I also then spoke with the individual who had been his mission president when he had been in Mesa as a missionary about my concerns, and learned that there was more that had happened while Jacob had been here on his mission. That same day that I'd had the conversation with Jacob, my recently married daughter and her husband, who were living with us, asked why he had been at our house, and I said that we had just been visiting. It really wasn't her business why. And she said, well, he is a snake, and proceeded to tell me what had happened a couple of years earlier when Jacob had been there as a missionary, that he had pursued her and had flirted with her on a regular basis, which was not in keeping with his mission rules.
Okay. Were you disclosed information about any sexual abuse by Jacob to Madeline?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And did you attempt to talk to Jacob about that?
I did not at that time. He was no longer in the area. I did not reach out to Jacob about that.
Okay. You wrote a letter. May I approach her?
Yes. All right.
So I've handed you what's been marked as Exhibit 23 and 24.
Yes.
Okay. I'll have you take a look at 23 first. Do you recognize that document?
Yes, it's an email that I sent.
And who'd you send that to?
I sent the top part email to Marcus Williams, who was the Title IX investigator at BYU.
Okay. And what did you tell him?
I was very concerned that Jacob was still attending BYU, considering the things that I had learned in his behavior towards his wife at the time which was Maddie, while they were attending BYU. I also indicated at that time that I would have brought him under a disciplinary council if he had been within my purview as his ecclesiastical leader.
And then what was the date of that?
The date of that letter is March 20th.
And that's 2017?
That's 2017, correct.
And underneath on the same exhibit, there's another email, correct?
That is correct. It's an email that I sent to him and to his ecclesiastical leader in Montana.
Okay. And what date was that?
It was July 9th, 2016.
And what did you say there?
This was in response to how Jacob had taken some information from another email and had taken it out of context and had twisted around. And he had sent me an email asking me to verify whether it was true or not. I just indicated that, first of all, his indication of where I'd received it was inaccurate. And also that the quotes that he had given me, I didn't have at that time a copy of the document to respond. I wasn't willing to say yes or no without seeing the actual document that he was supposedly pulling the information from. I did take that time to indicate my feelings on the matter after a result of having investigated from an ecclesiastical viewpoint what was going on. And I had found from my viewpoint, I told him in the email that it was a pattern of deception, disobedience, and manipulation. I had been an ecclesiastical leader among young adults prior for 5 years at BYU, and I had seen this pattern before, and it was becoming very clear that it was repeating itself in Jacob, and I was very concerned. I was concerned for Jacob that he frankly needed some help. And I was also concerned that it didn't seem to be forthcoming and he wasn't accepting of it.
Okay. Do you have concerns regarding Jacob's mental health?
I do.
Okay. And you've talked to him, correct?
I have talked to Jacob. I have not talked to Jacob about that specifically other than through emails. He has not been around to discuss that with.
Okay.
And I'm no longer his ecclesiastical leader.
In your, I moved to admit 23 and 24, Your Honor.
Any objection?
We haven't discussed 24 yet, but I don't have an objection.
All right. So 23 and 24 in evidence.
We do. We do.
All right.
So I'll just have to look at 23 24. Or is it 20? Is it all in 23? It might be all in 23. Anyway, can you take a look at Exhibit 24 in front of you, please?
Yes.
Okay, and can you tell me what day this is dated?
It was dated the 10th of July, 2016.
Okay, and what is this email in regards to?
This was in response to him sending the complete document that I had requested in the previous email we discussed.
Okay. Could you read the second to last paragraph there for me? It's on base level page 286.
The second to last, I did warn.
Yes.
I did warn the Joneses that I did not think it was wise to allow Jacob to meet with Maddie. I had spoken with Maddie at length by this time about the emotional and sexual abuse allegations. Her emotional state was quite fragile at this fragile, and the allegations were quite serious. I was concerned that a visit from Jacob would be a great detriment to her well-being.
And you previously stated that you thought that he, and in your words, was misrepresenting truths and twisting things. Is that correct?
That is correct. And so I broke it to what I felt was the truth in the document and what I did not say, or was implied that I did not say.
May I approach again?
Yes.
Thank you. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And is this the same as the email that was the lower email on the prior Exhibit 23 that you referenced, dated July 9, 2016?
I'm sorry, could you give me that question again, Counsel? I think I lost it.
I think this is where our duplicative exhibit is.
All right.
And so I just wanted to confirm that it is the same email.
This is the same email as what you have as number 23.
Correct. The second portion of it, correct?
The second portion of it, correct.
And at the very end of that, could you, the Exhibit 14 that you have in front of you on the very bottom, could you read your statement there? I have long ago learned.
I have long ago learned that mistakes are part of life. We all make them. So leaves a question. How do you determine a person's intent and character, especially in times of seemingly conflicting information? You look for ongoing patterns in that person's behavior. The pattern I have discovered in the past few weeks is that of a predator, someone who looks for weakness in others in order to exercise unrighteous dominion, someone who uses sacred gospel principles to twist and to confuse, and someone who pretends to be everything he is not. I am very disappointed, truly disappointed.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, any cross-examination?
Yes. Mr. Dunn, when did you first counsel the couple?
I counseled the couple prior to their marriage. I don't have the exact date of what that would have been.
Okay. How many times did you meet with them prior to their marriage?
I met with them several times. I don't have an exact count.
Okay. Was this premarital counseling?
Yes, it was.
And you suggested that they get married?
I did not suggest anything of the part. They were getting married, and we were having counseling sessions in terms of were they ready for it and how it was going.
Okay. And at that point, did you see anything personally that you were concerned with?
Not at that time. I think that was the thing that was difficult for me.
I'm sorry. I just need to answer my questions.
You bet. Ask the right question.
So how many times did you meet with them before the summer of 2016?
I don't recall.
A handful of times?
Several.
Several times. All right. Can I direct you to Exhibit 24, please? This is a letter that you wrote to Jacob on July 10th, 2016, correct?
That is correct.
And at this point, you've had conversations with Madeline
I had, yes.
And at this point, she's disclosed to you that she was sexually abused, correct?
That is correct.
All right. Now, when you met with Jacob, you wrote this letter to clarify some things. Is that right?
That is true.
And you said that Jacob contacted you to visit about how he and Maddie could get back together. You suggested couples counseling. Did you suggest couples counseling for the two of them with you?
I suggested couples counseling. I'm looking at this right now, and I'd like to just clarify something.
I just need you to answer my question, sir.
Well, it's to clarify
no, sir, I just need you to answer the questions. That's it. Did you suggest couple counseling for the two of them with you?
Yes, but I did not know the sexual abuse at this time.
Hold on, sir. You've answered the question, so I'm not going to consider your additional explanation. If Mr. Lachewski wants you to explain and redirect, he'll ask you the question.
That's fine.
All right. Did you speak to both of them about attending?
I did.
Was it scheduled?
No, it was not.
It was never scheduled?
Not to my recollection.
Do you remember if Jacob met with you alone?
Jacob did meet with me alone.
Thank you. When he attended that alone, did he try to force you to get Madeline to come back together with him?
Not in any way.
Was he looking for your advice as to how to stay married?
Yes, he was.
Did you do any sort of mental health assessment?
I am not a mental health individual, so no.
Do you have any training in mental health or any background in mental health?
No, I do not.
All right. What about sex abuse? Do you have any training or background in sex abuse?
As a counselor, no.
Jacob later contacted you not for marriage counseling, but for counseling to figure out some co-parenting. Is that right?
He contacted me to see if he and his parents could visit with me about the co-parenting, yes.
Was he asking that you mediate a discussion between him and his family and Maddie and her family to come up with some sort of arrangement for custody?
Yes.
Did you personally witness Jacob mistreat anyone?
No.
Did Jacob ever tell you something that you found personally concerning or alarming?
No.
You heard information from other people that led you to your conclusion. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Did you conduct any sort of investigation or disciplinary proceedings?
I conducted investigation. I was not in a position to hold the disciplinary counsel.
Did you... A disciplinary proceeding would involve an investigation where both people would talk to you and present evidence, correct?
Yes.
And that never happened. You only spoke to Maddie and people who she brought to you, correct?
Incorrect. I also spoke to
sir.
other... Incorrect.
I have nothing further, thank you.
All right, any redirect, counsel?
To go right back to that, did you speak to other people besides Madeline and her family?
Yes, I did. I spoke to the ecclesiastical leader who had been responsible for Jacob for 2 years.
Did you speak to the missionary president?
That was who I'm referring to.
Did you speak to his bishop?
I spoke to his bishop up in Montana.
And you stated earlier that you gathered information and conducted an investigation as well, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Did you come to your conclusion based on only what was told to you by Maddie or her family?
No.
Why did you come to your conclusion that he was, as you said, a predator?
In talking with his former mission president and talking with some of the others that he had associated with during his mission, and also in discussing it with his former bishop or the bishop in Montana, I came to those conclusions based on experience I had had as ecclesiastical leader for 5 previous years.
Have you ever seen, you couple counsels regularly, correct?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and a lot of young couples, I would
A
guess?
lot of young couples.
And have you ever seen situations where people are in controlling environments?
Very much, yes.
Have you ever seen situations where people are in have a sexual abuse issue in their relationship?
I do.
So you've seen this many times?
I have.
Okay. When you recommended couples counseling, were you aware of the sexual abuse allegations?
No, I was not.
Would you have recommended it if you were?
Absolutely not.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, sir. You're excused as a witness, which means that the exclusionary rule is no longer in effect, which means you may remain in court if you wish, but you're not required to.
Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. All right, who do we have as our next witness?
I can call Mr. Jones. It's 10. You said you wanted to take a break every hour, so I